Father Soldier Son is the newest documentary on Netflix, and it takes a look at loss, love, redemption, and legacy. But is it really worth your time? Documentary filmmakers follow Brian Eisch, a soldier in the Army, and they take a look at his life over the span of 9 years. They start following him in 2010, and then they conclude in 2019. The access that they get is pretty incredible. We get to see him in action over in Afghanistan, and to have the filmmakers there alongside is just crazy and almost unbelievable. Brian's a single dad who has 2 young sons, and in 2010, they're about, I think, 12 and a half and 7 and a half, somewhere around there. And so we get to see these boys also mature over the course of the documentary. I really like the access that we get to the lives of the Eisch family. I mean, it really is crazy that we're in their house, that we follow along as they go to school, as they just interact, just all of the inner workings and the inner thinkings and the thoughts that they're having. Now, there is an incident that brings Brian back from Afghanistan earlier than he had planned, and so we get to see him go through that and make his transition home. It's frustrating at times to watch him because you can tell that he doesn't want to be changed, that he didn't want his experience in war to change him as a father, as just this friend, as this leader of the house. But it does kind of seep in there. And so we get to see him deal with that inner struggle of him trying to reconcile what he knows he wants to be versus how he actually is acting, and then being able to pull himself out of things or to just remain stuck. I'm pretty sure that the filmmakers at some point, maybe at the very beginning, said, as we follow you along, we are truly going to be flies on the wall, that we are not going to intercede at all. So if you're struggling, if you're having a hard time doing something, if whatever that is, we're not going to help. Because it's evident in a lot of scenes where, especially towards the middle and the latter half of the movie, where we see Brian and his boys and they're going about things, and you just see the struggle. It's tough for us to watch because we feel their frustration, we feel the struggle, we feel just that angst, that anxiety, that anger maybe that's coming through having to deal with some actions and having to carry out some chore that maybe you're not able to do or that you're faltering in. And all the while, the camera is just facing them, and it's just truly observing and really giving us a picture of Brian and his family's life. At 4 minutes in, I was crying. And not because it was really sad, but well, I guess it was sad, but it was more touching than anything. I'm a dad, and so I saw what Brian and his boys were going through, and I could feel that experience, and I could put myself in his place at that moment. And so it was very touching. But that's not the only time you're going to cry in this. There are moments of true devastation, and so which you would expect over 9 years, something has to happen, right? It's not always just rainbows and butterflies the entire time with anybody's life. There are going to be ups and downs, and the cameras are there to capture it. I like that we do get to see change from our characters, but sometimes that's a sad moment also, because you see sometimes the disappointment in somebody's eyes or in their words, or where they had been taking their life down a trajectory and down a path, and then something changes that. And so then they have that choice of, well, how do I react to this, or what do I do in this instance? And then you watch them do something, and maybe it's not for the best of motives. And maybe it's just out of pressure, or maybe it's out of just responsibility or duty, which you can still do those things, but sometimes it's so much better if you get to do them because you truly want to do them, and it also fulfills a duty or a responsibility. So the documentary is a little over an hour and a half long, and it will suck you in. I mean, it is really engaging. It's hard to tear yourself away from it, that it moves along. It is frustrating. It is sad. There are happy moments. You laugh sometimes. You get to see the frustration, and it truly is. We're going along for a day in the life, except this day in the life is 9 years. So should you check out Father Soldier Son? Or I really think you should. I mean, if you're into documentaries or you're into character studies, then this is crazy access to just be able to watch the transformation of people over almost a decade of time. I highly recommend that you check this out. There's no sex or nudity, there is a lot of profanity, and there's some violence and just some disturbing imagery, and even it's just a heavy topic sometimes to go through. So just know that going in, that this isn't a light watch, and it's not necessarily going to leave you all smiles at the end. There are some hopeful moments throughout this, but there's also this melancholy cloud that just encircles and covers the entire documentary. Are there any good documentaries that you've been watching lately? I'd love to know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for catching with me.